Welcome back to Naval Action and episode 79 of A Letter to the King. If you're new to the series, episode 79, where have you been? It's my attempt of keeping us up to date with what's going on, PvP, Realm v Realm, Clan v Clan, on the global server, the server that never sleeps. Let's refresh our minds of where we were at the end of the first week of Biffo with the new ports reset. And fundamentally we had four nations expanding in different directions. The pirates were moving out of the small island chain and beginning to take up some camps on Cuba and Haiti, as well as the odd island. The Americans had come tally-hoing down the east coast of Florida. The Danes were setting sail west, young man, into Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The Brits were eating up the coast along Mexico and into South America. And that was sort of the main cut and thrust of it all. And this week saw the first Biffo between nations. I think we had 3, maybe 4 nation-on-nation port battles on our server. But before we get there, let's see what the political situation seems to be. So the Brits and the Americans have been bashing each other a bit, so I've set them to war, although there was a bit of a gibbering that happened over the weekend that might have cooled that down. It might be back to really aggressive non-aggression for the time being. And the pirates and the Americans have been having at it, as it were. So we might expect to see that to continue on, and really the rest of the nations a bit quiet, to be honest. The Danes have been grabbing up some territory. The Cloggies and the Swedes have grabbed up a little bit. The French, nothing much this week. I think the French have really buggered off to the other server, as it were. So let's have a look where the Biffo has been this week. So the Americans actually kicked the Spanish out of Key West. That was the first battle of any consequence. I don't think the Spanish maybe put up a great deal of resistance, but the Spanish have been thrown out of Key West. Really their only advance they'd made off their own mainland. And it was a short-lived excursion to Key West. The pirates and the Americans fought it out over Nassau in what looks like a cracking battle here. Well contested with almost 2 full fleets. But you can see that the pirates certainly got the better of the engagement, sinking almost half of the, slightly more than half, I should say, of the American fleet. You'll notice that the pirates came mostly in rattlesnake heavies, whereas the Americans were sort of half rattlesnake heavies and half not. And these rattlesnake heavies are such an overpowered ship in the shallow water battles. They absolutely slap a Mercury down. So irrespective, I mean, they had 1 extra ship, but just that extra numbers of rattlesnake heavies there would have given them a big advantage. But by all accounts, it was a fun port battle. The Brits then had a go at Islamadora. So some Americans had been jumping into the old British hostility mission and causing a bit of trouble, so the Brits decided a bit of a poke in the eye might be needed for the Americans. So the Brits came to Islamadora. But the Brits really didn't bring enough numbers. They only brought a dozen or so, and the Americans turned up with a great fleet. Now, this screenshot's taken about 5 minutes from the end of the battle. I think the Americans managed to sink one of the Brits. I think this young chap here had his victory sent to the bottom. Not sure if another American ship was sunk, but the Brits actually did really well given, you know, this crazy bonkers outnumbering. And although some of the American ships are littlies, You know, surprises and endies, and there's a Connie in here somewhere. There she is. And a frigate. Those little ships were really annoying. They managed to sort of, you know, go and grab up the circles. And of course, the Brits needed to sort of stick together with this fleet. However, the Brits did pretty well. They sank 3 first rates unanswered until the closing moments of the battle, where I think one of the British first rates was clocked. And to be honest, it was actually looking quite good for the Brits until one of the Americans exploded and turned 3 or 4 of the British ships into canoes. And when you're outnumbered like this, losing 3 or 4 ships, manoeuvrability for pretty much the balance of the battle meant that any chance of a miracle victory was to be dashed. That and the fact that the Americans, with the extra numbers, could dominate the circles meant that they could run up the 1,000 points pretty quickly. But a couple of things of note: it was great to see such a big American fleet rock up. It would have been 7:30 in the morning for many of them, US time, because it was prime time Australia. Most of the ships were from the Aussie Armed Clan, with a special guest star from VCO. This is more of a hodgepodge, predominantly Mars, with a bunch of other clans joining in. But a great showing by the Americans, and I think the Brits were expecting sort of a more even fight, and the Americans came out with a whole, look at this, bunch of first rates. So well done US, and a good bit of defending of a port. So the Brits were vanquished, and Islamadora stays in the colonial hands. And the US seem to have pretty much carried on their push up the coast here, and seem set on running amok in the bay. So we'll have to see that. The Brits have done well, though. A lot of British ports, a lot of ports were taken by the Brits. They've completed the island chains, the Caymans, and the little triangle of islands here, as well as eating up more and more of the ports across this bight, so across Mexico and Venezuela and the likes. The pirates have also been spreading their wings. They've been grabbing up more ports on the north side of Haiti, as well as a whole bunch of island ports. Something you can't see that happened just today is the Brits actually did snag a port off the Americans, St. George, I think, or Georgetown. There's so many Georges on this bloody map. But this one here, up in these islands, the island chain at the top there, which is a crazy bonkers sail up to the Bahamas. The Danes have continued pushing west, and I think the Danes are hoping that Haiti becomes a bit of a fun zone for lots of port battles and the like, and they're more or less inviting the Brits to come over and have a bash, so that might be a bit of fun. The Swedes grabbed up 2 or 3 ports around this neck of the woods, although they're fairly small and yeah, small force really. The Frenchies were asleep this week. The Cloggies picked up a couple of 3 ports as well, just spreading their wings a little bit, but they're small as well. So really the primary nations are the Brits, the Americans, the pirates, with the Danes having a pretty decent showing in the Oceanic timetable with an Aussie-based clan and I think a Chinese-based clan. So that's more or less it. Open world Biffo zones. Well, this southern part of the Florida coast probably sees the most combat. A little bit of combat around Mortimer Town, and there do seem to be a small number of hardy souls picking Brits off sort of between Ben Salem and, to be honest, all the way down the coast here. That circle's probably not big enough. Where will we see some Biffo in the forthcoming week? Well, the islands, Bahamas, certainly going to see some action. Be interesting to see what happens with the Americans and the Brits around Florida and the Florida Keys. I think Haiti might prove to be, I don't know what that's doing there. That's a cut and paste error. I'll have someone flogged in pre-production. But I think Haiti might prove to be a bit of a biffing ground. And that's about it. Numbers on the server are still sort of improving a little bit, but it's still it's a pretty quiet affair, I have to be honest. Probably one of the biggest pieces of news this week is that the Naval Action Legends closed just about, an alpha kicked off. So Naval Action Legends is, think of World of Warships or World of Tanks style game. You start off in your little basic cutter, although it's a bit of a difference actually in Legends. It's got 2 sails that you can control, sort of control, because it seems a bit not obvious what them sails are doing. You start off in a cutter. You go into one of, I think, 3 game modes. So there seems to be a game mode with 3 circles, where controlling the circles clock points very slowly though. Or there's 1 circle, or there's one with a fort in it. I didn't get on that map. I managed to get 4 or 5 games in. In all of them there was maybe 1 player on the opposite side and a bunch of AI. I think I'll have to wake up early next weekend so that I can get on when them their Europeans and Yankee Doodles are on at the same time. But basically it's the battles I've been in have been sort of 6-a-side with a couple of players and then AI making up the numbers. At the moment, most people are running around in the basic cutter. XP earning is very slow for a test server. I think the devs need to make a decision. Do they just want to emulate live and test the pace of that? Or do they want us using different ships so that we can test the matchmaking, you know, so when you're getting into mixed battles where there's a couple of brigs and a Mercury and a whatever else, a Trincomalee in there, does it do that? Because at the moment, I mean, I had 1 battle, I mean, I think in it I technically lost, but I got a kill, I killed the other player, and I got 4 assists, and I lost, and I got 31 XP. Now, to get the brig needs 900 XP, so that means I'd have to play 30 battles where I get a kill and several assists just to get out of my little basic cutter. Now there is a sort of normal and a premium model. We're all playing as if we're normal players. You can't actually be a premium player to my knowledge on the alpha closed test thingo. A whole bunch of us were sent keys in the post, in the email. We can give keys to our mateys, but you're not to post the keys on forums. And you can actually record and stream. So next weekend I will do a recording of Naval Action Legends. I didn't realise it was only going to be up for a couple of days. Otherwise I'd have rushed to do one this week. However, I will do a bit of a Hello Naval Action Legends videos for you next week. I actually think it's got loads of promise. It's the sort of game you can drop in and maybe have 1 or 2 battles if you've only got an hour or so to play with, and you know, that sort of heavier lump of time that we like to commit to open world, which is still the place I like to live. But you do need a bigger lump of time to commit to that to sort of do anything of any meaning. Anyway, so it's very exciting that Naval Action Legends is out. There was a few gameplay problems for me. It was a bit choppy. When you were turning the ship, it seemed to turn and then leap 10 degrees. I felt there was a lot of cannon lag, so my ping was pretty bad. It was 300. Which means it's probably European hosted or something. I get 220 to the global server, but it was 300 to the Legends server. But it felt not as steady as 300. Quite often I'd sort of fire and the first shot would go out more or less as I'd expect it, but then the remaining shots seem to have a stutter between them. So I don't know if that's lag or if it's some other problem, but it was a bit stuttery. The UI is already nicer than open world Naval Action. It looks a lot slicker. You can see where they're going with it. It's your classic sort of docks with your ships in it, and then your access to the collection of ships that you can go for. as you progress in a ship, you can spend experience to essentially open up upgrade slots or officer slots. But again, I mean, I did 4 battles and earned, I don't know, 7,000 gold, silver. I'm not sure if I earned silver for every battle. It was difficult to tell because the post-battle reporting is a bit skinny at the moment. And just to add my first upgrade was 15,000 silver, so that feels, you know, that's like 8 battles to get your first upgrade on a ship. And that's if you're not sort of saving all your money and your experience to bum rush through to the next ship. But you could open a whole bunch of slots on the ship and give it, you know, planking and stay sails and studding sails and boarding mods. And quite a few mods that we don't have in the vanilla games. You could have pikes to help with boarding actions and stuff like that. So that was all pretty interesting, and there seems to be an officer slot that you can open, but I haven't got enough experience yet to open it, and I don't really want to burn my experience, to be honest, because I want to get, I don't mind the slotter, but it's a bouncy bit of cork really, and you know, shooting's all over the place. You fire a broadside, if you hit 4 out of 6, you're feeling rather fantastic, because in the cutter, the waves alone will eat 1 or 2 of your cannonballs unless you get a really top shot off. So I want to get myself into a brig or a Mercury or something rather than bobbing around in my crazy bonkers cutter. I really enjoy the game, probably from 5th rate upwards as far as the ships I like to sail. I don't mind running around in the cutters, it's good fun. The other interesting thing with Legends, and again I'll cover this more, I'll actually start a playlist for my Legends stuff, is that other than the emergency repair, which is on a time cooldown, there is no repair kit, so there's no crew repair, there's no sail repair, there's no hull repair. Now this really changes the dynamic of the game, because if you knock someone's mast off, as I did in my second battle, that's it, they're goosed. Again, if you offer one side of your ship and get it thumped, you're really going to have to nurse that side of your ship, you know, and fight left-handed for the rest of the battle or whatever. So it's very different. Without the repairs, it's kind of weird playing without repairs. You've really got to change your tactics. You can change the loadouts on your guns, so you can decide to run with mediums or longs or carronades. And it was very, I mean, I played one battle and the other guy had carronades, and you know, you just sit at range and pick them off, and as long as the AI don't splatter your sails, you can pretty much keep that going as long as you want. So I'm hoping to get a few of my clanmates in maybe next weekend, and a few of us can bob around together. My understanding is the game's going to be free to play when it's launched, but you'll need a premium account if you want the accelerated experience, so very much like the other free to play arena style games. The other advantage of having a premium account is that you can create groups, so you can go in with your mates. That's a bit of a weird one for me. Not really sure if I like the idea that you need a premium account so that you can play with your mates, but only one of you needs a premium account, and I'm sure there's enough of us out there with a couple of quid that there'll be enough folks running around with groups. As always, the challenge with a game like this will be in the matchmaking and keeping the battles to the right length. The battles at the moment, if it's all AI, are a little bit probably too long. It's like 45 minutes, just because, you know, AI is a bit stupid. So it's not particularly good at prosecuting an advantage. I died on my second or third battle, and I think when I died I left 4 of my AI alive to 1 of the, well, 1.5 of the enemy AI, and it took my idiot 4 AI another 30 minutes to sink the remaining 1.5 ships, the Muppets. So it certainly looks like it's got potential. It looks like it's a bit of fun. It's very early doors. This really was the sort of version 0.0000001 release. But you can see the advantage of them coming in with a framework from Open World, where they've got a whole bunch of assets and capabilities already modelled. So I don't think it will take that long for them to knock it into shape, to be honest. And then it just comes down to getting that matchmaking working, getting the length of battles working, and the variety in the maps, if you like. The maps certainly look pretty. There's land in them all, so there's no sort of sailing around in the middle of nowhere. And of course, the more real players you have in a battle, the more dynamic it is. And equally, as with all of these pick-up arena games, the more you can sail with absolute idiots who do completely the wrong thing, which of course is that balance between the wonders and the frustration of all of these arena games. Anyway, back to open world. Let's have a look at the scores on the doors. We'll see the Brits have carried on growing at a crazy bonkers rate. They've now got 46 ports. There's 210 ports left on global that are white ports, as it were, free towns. The Americans made some modest gains. The Pirates very quietly made a lot of gains, almost more than doubling their holdings, as did the Danes. The Spanish still made a profit. The Frenchies, well, they were having a kip this week. The Cloggies picked up 3. The Swedes, biggest proportional gain, I suppose. They went from 2 ports to 5 ports. And a new feature. This is the top 5 clans on the global server and their holdings. So the British clan Armed, a bunch of captains picked really just based on their looks and super intelligence. That's an Aussie clan, 15 ports. Black, the scourge of the seas, the pirate clan. Mars, probably the most active of the American clans, coming at 3rd. I'm missing a C there. CCCP, which is the Chinese clan from the Danes, and VCO, which is another of the British clans, round out the top 5. And a tip of the hat to Captain Woodenfish Jr. For providing me with an API that lets me see on global how many ports each clan has. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Woodenfish Jr. And I know that that's it. That's part of a function that Mr. Woodenfish has done just for his clan, so I'm not going to be linking it. So that's the top 5 clans, so you can see who the main active clans are on the server there. And that's it for this week's Naval Action. 79 episodes. One of us is mad. I think it could be me. It's been good fun this week. There's an increased number of open world biffo now that people have worked out where you won't get attacked by teleporting Santissimas. The first blood has been spilt in nation v nation port battles since the reset, and I think the borders are being drawn and areas for biffo have sort of been sorted out. So that's it for this week's Naval Action. Give us a like, give us a surprise. I'll see you. Give us a surprise. Give us a like, give us a subscribe or a surprise, and I'll see you on the oceans. And I'll catch you